Number 1. After Spain approved Stephen Austin's plan to begin a colony, where did Austin create the colony? Remember to use your notes for this. At first, Stephen F. Austin didn't want to help his father colonize Texas. When his father died, he felt it was his responsibility to continue his work. A weak economy in 1820 helped Austin change his mind. He needed money and started a colony in Texas. Looked like a good way to earn it. In the summer of 1821, Spain approved Austin's plan to establish a colony, and he began searching for a site. In September, he found the perfect place. He described the area between the Colorado and Brazos rivers as the most favored region I had ever seen. It was also where he wanted to build a town, San Felipe de Austin. And this right here is going to help you find your answer to this part. He chose a place near Native American tribes for trading purposes. He chose a location near 2 rivers. He chose a beautiful location in Spain, or he chose a place near 2 rivers in Spain. Now remember, this is not in Spain. This is in Texas. Number 2. Why was life tough for the first settlers of Austin's colony? Old 300. News of Austin's plan for a colony was spreading, and interested settlers began writing him. Austin promised Spain that 300 families would settle his colony, but there were actually 297. When settlers began arriving, Austin went to New Orleans to buy a ship he would use to send supplies to his colony. A streak of bad luck, and this is where you're going to see the issues. Austin's ship left New Orleans for the mouth of the Colorado River in Texas. The captain mistakenly landed at the mouth of the Brazos. This is important. When no one was there to meet him, he went back to New Orleans. Austin tried again. This time, his ship ran around on Galveston Island, and all his supplies were lost. This is also important. The lost supplies made life tough for the first settlers in Austin's colony, but the Karankawa made it worse. The colony was on their land, and they attacked the settlement. So, once again, what was tough? What made life tough? There were not enough settlers to drive the ship. The ship could not hold all 300 settlers. The ship sank in New Orleans, or the captain landed at the mouth of the wrong river and then left thinking that no one was there to receive the supplies. Number 3, what problems did Austin's colony face in the first days of settlement? The Karankawa weren't Austin's only problem. His settlers couldn't get the papers they needed to prove they owned their land. Austin hurried to San Antonio to fix the problem. When he got there, he learned that his grant to establish a colony was no longer good because Spain no longer controlled Texas. Mexico had just won its independence from Spain in a revolution. Mexico now owned Texas, and agreements with the Spanish government were worthless. This forced Austin to go to Mexico City, where he would try to get permission to establish a colony that he had already started. Since the road to Mexico City was very dangerous, Austin disguised himself as a beggar to avoid being robbed. When he got there, things were a mess. The 2 groups were fighting for control of the Mexican government. To make matters worse, Austin did not speak Spanish. Austin spent more than a year in Mexico. During that time, he learned Spanish and convinced Mexican officials that he was an honest man. At first, they gave him permission to establish a colony. Then they changed their minds, but Austin did not give up. And you'll find your answer right around the first couple of sentences here at the top. Native Americans intact, and they did not have proof that they could settle the land. He didn't know how to speak Spanish. Austin gave up and didn't work hard to keep the colony going. Austin was put to jail in Mexico. Number 4, what 2 types of people could not live in Austin's colony? Austin's hard work pays off. After a year and a half, Austin finally received permission to continue his work, and his settlers were given proof that they owned their land. When he returned with the good news, he was found that his colony was in trouble. A drought had killed the crops. Karankawa had killed many settlers, forcing some settlers to give up and go home. Austin formed a militia and forced the Karankawa out of the area. He then made treaties with the Wichita and Tonkawa tribes. Austin also established new rules that required colonists to be hardworking and dependable. Since all but 4 of the colonists could read and write, he probably preferred that the settlers have some education. Criminals and lazy people were not allowed. Again, look at the question. What 2 types of people cannot live there? So there's your answer right there, right? Those who broke Austin's rules were publicly whipped, and families of poor character were forced to leave. Is it rich people, criminals and lazy people, Tonkawa tribal members, or the Karankawa? Number 5, using the article from question 4, why do you think Austin had to establish rules for the new colony? Texas was a difficult place to settle, and people needed to be dependable and trustworthy. The Karankawa were constantly breaking rules in the colony. Stephen Austin was bossy and rude. Stephen Austin was preparing people to go live in Spain. And you really need to look right here. Austin also established new rules that required colonists to be hardworking and dependable. Which one kind of talks about that? Number 6, why did Father Hidalgo want the people to rise up against the Spanish government? As you read in the cover story, New Spain, Mexico, had been fighting with Spain for many years trying to gain its independence, beginning back in 1810. Many different people lived in Mexico then. There were Spaniards, some born in Spain and some born in the New World, American Indian groups, and mixtures of all these peoples. They were strictly divided by class, and only people born in Spain could hold important positions and gain wealth. That's going to be important right there, 4th graders. Only people born in Spain could hold important positions and gain wealth. Father Miguel Hidalgo was a Roman Catholic priest in the village of Dolores. He urged the people to rise up against the injustices of the Spanish government and claim their independence. He rang the church bells very early in the morning of September 16, 1810, and gave a stirring speech, now called Grito de Dolores, Cry of Dolores. This event began the movement toward revolution. So why did he ring the bell? The Native Americans were the only ones who could hold important positions in Mexico. He wanted people, and the question is, why did he want the people to rise up against the Spanish government? Okay, and remember what I told you. Look at that second paragraph at that last sentence. The Native Americans were the only ones who could hold important positions in Mexico. He wanted everyone to attend his church regularly. He wanted to go live with Stephen Austin in his colony, or only people who were Spanish could hold important positions or jobs. Number 7, use the paragraphs in question 6 to answer this question. Why did Father Miguel Hidalgo ring the church bells on September the 16th, 1810? He wanted people in the town of Dolores to listen to his speech and start the revolution. He was ringing the bell for church to start. He was being attacked and calling for help. He was practicing bell ringing for his performance later that day. And you'll see it right here. Right after he rang that bell, what happened? This event began the movement toward revolution. Which one mentions that for number 7? Number 8, what 3 freedoms did the Treaty of Cordoba guarantee? A quickly formed rebel army won some early battles against the Spanish army but was defeated at Mexico City. Father Hidalgo was convicted of treason and executed, put to death. However, another priest, Jose Maria Morelos, took his place as leader of the Revolutionary Army, capturing many cities before he was also arrested, tried, and executed. From 1815 to 1820, both Vicente Guerrero and Guadalupe Victoria led the rebels in many brave battles. But in 1821, the revolution was making little progress. Finally, a general in the Spanish army, Agustin de Iturbide, unexpectedly changed sides because he disliked a new constitution in Spain. He formed the Plan Ivigala, which made 3 guarantees. this is important, fourth graders, Mexico would gain independence from Spain. The Roman Catholic Church would be the official religion, and all Spanish people would receive equal rights. Iturbide's army joined the rebels, and Spain soon agreed to Iturbide's plan. Treaty Cordoba, giving Mexico these freedoms, was signed on September the 27th of 1821. The people of Mexico celebrate September the 16th, Dia 16, as Mexico's Independence Day. They remember Father Hidalgo's grito, along with the heroes of the Mexican War of Independence who died for their freedom, just as we celebrate the 4th of July in the United States. And again, what were the three freedoms? Freedom from Spain, Roman Catholic Church would be the official religion of Mexico, and Spanish people would have equal rights in Mexico. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. Freedom to gather in churches and ring the bells of Dolores. Freedom to celebrate the 4th of July. And you'll see right here, the guarantees are right here. So please look at this section very, very carefully.